Look at this. It says in one of the testimonies, a person who's going to come out on the second panel when it's called for reviewing past cases and trying to find ways to make amends for some of the unfortunate situations whistleblowers have endured in the past. Now, what is the administration stand on some sort of retroactive review of these cases?
As an initial matter, we believe this bill is just one piece of the administration's broader effort to ensure increased accountability in government, increased protections for whistleblowers, and increased transparency. Accordingly, we would hope that once this bill is, even as this bill is being moved through, we can start discussions on a range of fronts, whether it has to do with the MSPB, the Office of Special Counsel, or a range of other issues of interest to this community. With respect to the retroactive consideration of cases, that's certainly something that we think should be paid attention to, and we will take it under consideration.
And now we'll hear from Ms. Brian.
Thank you very much, Chairman Akaka, for inviting me to testify today and for your long leadership on whistleblower protections and protecting federal employees. POGO was founded by Pentagon whistleblowers concerned with wasteful spending and weapons that didn't work. Over the years, our mission has evolved, but we remain devoted to our roots of protecting brave truth-tellers inside the federal government. In general, POGO believes the House language does a much better job providing meaningful whistleblower protections than the Senate companion bill for two reasons. It provides real due process through access to jury trials, and it extends protections to our very important national security whistleblowers. My colleague Tom Devine is representing our coalition of organizations in supporting access to jury trials, so I'll focus my testimony on why we need to protect national security whistleblowers. Many federal employees working in the intelligence agencies were carved out from getting even the pathetic whistleblower protections that are accorded to other federal employees, so that we now have a situation, as Senator McCaskill just pointed out, where contractors are protected even if, for example, the federal employee who is overseeing them is not. There's currently a random patchwork of laws that provide protections to national security contractors and some national security federal employees, even intelligence ones, for example, at the Department of Energy and the NRC, but not others. And the separate but equal systems set up within the CIA and FBI are not working. We entrust national security and intelligence federal employees with our nation's most sensitive information. Why would we not also trust them to protect those secrets when working to correct problems? And I would like to point out that in the earlier testimony from the Justice Department, I did not hear any argument that explains why national security whistleblowers should not be given the same right to a jury trial that other federal employees should have. It is because of national security whistleblowers that we've learned that, for example, Congress was being misled about A.Q. Khan's nuclear proliferation scheme, the existence of the CIA's secret prisons, our government's use of warrantless wiretaps, TSA and FBI incompetence, and secret detentions at Guantanamo. Congress learned about all of these disclosures through the press, and all of these whistleblowers lost their jobs. By not providing real protections for national security whistleblowers, we are actually driving them to the press and encouraging leaks of classified information. That is a lose-lose situation. I want to be very clear. We are not asking to protect the disclosure of classified information to anyone who is not cleared to receive it. Whistleblower protections will not supersede existing rules for handling classified information. We would support adding language to the bill to make this explicit if necessary. It is in the self-interest of the Congress, perhaps most importantly, to encourage those who are aware of wrongdoing to make their disclosures to Congress. Formal briefings from agency heads have their place, but they do not truly inform the Congress of the real goings-on at an agency. And House Intelligence Chairman Sylvester Reyes just recently articulated this point in a letter he sent to every CIA employee, where he pointed out that essentially the House Intelligence Committee had been focused on notification rather than real discussion. I would argue the most effective way to begin real oversight would be to encourage and protect national security whistleblowers coming to the Congress. By virtue of your being elected to office, you have both a right and a duty to hear the vast majority of our nation's secrets, and many of your staff have been similarly cleared. For particularly sensitive information, you as members of Congress also have a right to demand to be read into those programs. POGO believes strongly that the Congress should not blindfold itself by adding new restrictions on your access to information. It is in this provision regarding disclosures to Congress that the Senate language is actually preferable to the House. We believe the House language is too confusing for a whistleblower in that it is very specific about which committee and which kind of information is protected, and the reality is that most whistleblowers do not know what member of Congress sits on what committee and what committee has what jurisdiction over what agency. For example, also, I would point out the best congressional oversight of the FBI has been conducted by Senator Grassley, and it's been out of his personal office. One problem that remains with the Senate provision is the use of the word authorized before members of Congress. Who authorizes them? The executive branch? History has shown the executive branch has repeatedly and mistakenly asserted its power to do so. Let me briefly put faces on 3 national security whistleblowers. As a CIA intelligence officer and later in the Pentagon, Rich Barlow learned that top U.S. officials were allowing Pakistan to manufacture and possess nuclear weapons. He also discovered that U.S. officials were hiding these activities from Congress. Barlow objected and suggested to his supervisors that Congress should be made aware of the situation. Because Barlow merely suggested that Congress should know the truth, he was fired. Barlow is now destitute and living in a trailer. Federal Air Marshal Robert McLean protested DHS plans to secretly neutralize budget shortfalls by canceling air marshal coverage on long-distance flights, even though there was a suicide terrorist hijacking alert. He protested up the chain of command to no avail. Ultimately, he made an unclassified disclosure to the press. 3 years later, the agency fired him because they retroactively labeled that information in his disclosure as sensitive security information. His case has been pending before the MSPB for 3 years without a hearing. He is unemployed. When DOJ lawyer Thomas Tam became aware of the government's use of warrantless wiretaps, he agonized over the legality of the program. He was rebuffed when he tried to tell a former colleague working on the Hill about his concerns. Ultimately, he alerted the New York Times, their story earning a Pulitzer. Congress constrained the program, but Mr. Tam became a target of an FBI investigation, lost his job, and has racked up tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Passing strong whistleblower legislation is a significant step. It will not, however, be enough. We cannot forget these people whose careers have been shattered because this law has been so late in coming. I was very gratified, Senator Burris, that you raised this question to the Justice Department witness and that he expressed an open mind to reviewing cases such as Barlow, McLean, and Tam to see if there's some way of making them whole. That would be a message sent around the federal government that whistleblower protections are more than a campaign promise, they're a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Brian.